You so much, Diana, and welcome everybody. What a wonderful event this is. I'm so pleased and excited and honored to be here and to introduce our Black History Month Science Symposium from the College of Science. During this important Black History Month, our college celebrates the history and the contributions of many Black scientists. And this is really one of the capstone events to our month-long celebration. We are thrilled to hear from 4 outstanding Northeastern graduates, but I'm not going to introduce them now because it is my pleasure and honor to introduce some of our current students who will be moderators for this event. And so without further ado, let me introduce Jeriyla, Laetitia and Nathalie, Jeriyla Kamau-Weng, Laetitia Pierre-Louis, and Nathalie Myrthil, who will be acting as moderators for this event. And I'm absolutely thrilled that you are here and that you will do this moderation. Thank you so much. Congratulations to you for your accomplishments so far. Congratulations to our outstanding alumni for their contributions. It is truly an honor to have you here with us. And I cannot express my admiration, my gratitude to you all for being here, and my congratulations for your accomplishments to date and going forward. So let me start with Jeriyla Kamau-Weng. Jeriyla, are you there? I believe you're going to start us off here.
Yes, I am. So
Thanks
hi,
so
everyone.
much.
I'm Jeriyla. I'm a 4th-year marine biology undergrad. And I'm excited to share a little bit about our first panelist, Marc Lausavio, who represents the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary, our nation's first in a series of 15 national marine sanctuaries and monuments managed by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. As a media and outreach coordinator, Marc works to share the science, stories, and relevance of the sanctuary with a national audience. Hailing from Kentucky, Marc holds a bachelor's degree in marine science from the University of South Carolina and a master's degree in marine biology from Northeastern University. Marc has been involved in diverse and sometimes unconventional communication experiences, which has evolved into a passion for communicating scientific topics to a broader audience. His master's thesis involved the analysis of effective outreach methods across generations in Southeastern China, focusing on the effectiveness of virtual reality-based lesson programming. Marc is also an avid diver and also a US sailing instructor. Thank you, Marc, for being here. And to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about how the College of Science has influenced your career and how you're able to carve your own space both at the college and during your career journey?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm still not used to being introduced as having a master's degree. Feels a little weird sometimes, but I'm also going to share some screens here. Let me know if you can't see that. You see my smiling face. You can't tell I'm smiling because I have a regulator in my mouth. But yes, that's a very good question. How did the College of Science influence my career? So my time in the College of Science may be a little different than your average student. And I'm sure you're probably going to hear that a lot today. But my time might be a little extra weird because I spent my time in the 3Cs program. And so the 3Cs program is this very special master's program. It's sort of like an accelerated high intensity year-and-a-half-long program that takes place almost entirely away from the main campus of Northeastern. So much so that I actually have not been to the main campus of Northeastern. The first semester is spent in Nahant, and that's where I spent most of my time. But the cool thing about the 3Cs program is that it's really small. It's about 20 students total, and it involves a lot of really hands-on experience. So it sounds really great on paper, but what they do is they'll take you to these great locations across the world. And for our class, we went to Panama. And so you take 20 students and you make them basically live on top of each other and take these really hard, difficult classes back to back in a very stressful location. It was hard. It's very challenging. And what that did is that taught me, and this has kind of influenced how I work from from now on is how to work with people, because being able to work with a whole bunch of people who are like hot, sweaty, hungry, tired, and living on top of each other 24/7, it's a really important skill to have. And it's something that I still use to this day. It helps me get a lot of things done when you're able to work with people who might not see eye to eye. And so that's in a nutshell what I learned from that aspect of my time in the program. But after you spend your time in whatever tropical location you're in, you are then take classes at Friday Harbor, Washington State. These classes are less intense. I mean, they're still hard, very difficult, but it's a longer time period you get to take those classes. You have actual weekends. It's a much slower pace. And it's here that I learned, and this is actually a huge part, thanks to my mentors at the College of Science, how to kind of leverage my unique background to succeed. Because I noticed that these 19 other people that I'm taking these classes are all phenomenal people. They're smart and amazing. And it doesn't matter where they're from or who they are going to be getting their degrees. And I need to figure out how I'm going to be getting that as well. And instead of trying to compete with them at the same things that they're doing, I leveraged my unique background in talking. I like to talk a lot, if you haven't noticed yet. I haven't even realized that I haven't clicked through any of my slides. But I leveraged my experience in communications to design my research project. This is Panama, seagrass. And I designed my research project as an outreach project in marine science in China. So I used that experience, my unique background, because I might not have a strong academic background a lot of my peers had. I used what I could know. I played to my strengths to kind of succeed in my goal. And because I did that, because I focused my master's project on my ability to communicate, I then used those skills to now find myself in this job, which sometimes I still don't believe that I've gotten. But now I work to communicate science of the sanctuary system that NOAA trustees across the country. So I guess in summary of that rambling, the way that the College of Science influenced my career was how to work with people who may not always see eye to eye, and how to leverage whatever unique background that I have. Because there are, if you know anything about marine science and marine biology, and Jeriyla probably is getting to realize this, it's a very crowded and competitive field. There's a lot of people and not necessarily a lot of jobs. So instead of trying to mold myself into what the average marine biologist looks like, I try to highlight the things about me that differentiate me from the average scientist. And yeah, I guess that answers that question.
Thank you so much, Marc. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your story later in the panel. And now I'm going to pass it off to Nathalie.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Nathalie. I'm a third year doctoral student studying chemistry. Now I will introduce the next panelist. So the next panelist is Dr. Sametria R. McFall. Dr. McFall serves as the interim provost and vice president for academic affairs at Savannah State University, the oldest public historically Black college, HBCU in the state of Georgia. She is a tenured faculty member, professional evaluator, and trainer, facilitator with more than 15 years of experience in higher education, administration, project management, and evaluation, strategic planning, student success, capacity building, and curriculum development. Dr. McFall has assisted local and state governments with small business curriculum development, project management, and evaluation. Dr. McFall is the immediate past assistant dean in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences at SSU, and she has served as the interim department chair for Social and Behavioral Sciences, assistant to the Dean and Director of Continuing Education at SSU. In addition, she teaches graduate and undergraduate courses in psychology, human growth and development, research methods, ethics, organization and theory and behavior, and global issues. She also served as the faculty mentor for master's students in public administration program. And she also holds a PhD and master's degrees in psychology from Northeastern and a master's degree in public administration from Savannah State University. So welcome, Dr. McFall. So I would like to ask, can you please tell us how the College of Science influenced your career and how did you carve your own space?
Certainly. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share some time with you. So my time at Northeastern, particularly in the psychology department, was really life-changing for me. I was very fortunate to have an advisor who understood that even though we were a research-intensive program, that I had aspirations that were quasi-related to research. And so Stephen Harkins was just a tremendous influence on my career because he instilled in me a great appreciation for research and data collection. And so I now use those skills to help me to make data-informed decisions at an administrative level. I have the opportunity to impact student lives in such a phenomenal way. And so I always carry with me the opportunities that were created for me while I was a student at Northeastern University. Being a part of the program has advanced my critical thinking skills. It has helped me tremendously with problem solving. And for those of you who may not know, this pandemic that we are in has certainly created challenges for higher education. But because of the skills that I gained all that time ago at Northeastern University, it really has created an opportunity for me to widen my lens and think about ways that we can engage with students much more creatively in this environment in an effort to keep them matriculating in the ways that they should, but also keeping them really and truly engaged, not in a surface or artificial kind of way. And so I have to attribute all of those skills to my time as a graduate student at Northeastern, and for the fact that my department allowed me to be the kind of student that I wanted to be, which wasn't always easy. So most of my colleagues that were in the program at the time, they were extremely passionate about research. One of my good friends who graduated a year ahead of me from the program, she wanted to do research every day, all day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. She would call me in the middle of the night with her next idea about things that she wanted to do. And I was always interested in the administrative piece. And as a matter of fact, when I initially graduated, I thought that I would be going into the public sector as a part of government leadership at either the city or state level. And I found my way to higher ed some years after graduating from Northeastern University. But again, the lessons that I learned there, the research skills, the critical thinking skills, all of those things have served me extremely well and have been invaluable in shaping the type of administrative leader that I am today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. McFall. Now I'd like to have the other moderator introduce the next panelist. So Laetitia, you can take it away.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laetitia Pierre-Louis. I am currently a senior studying behavioral neuroscience on the pre-medical track, very interested in education, specifically as it relates to health disparities. Now today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Dr. Solon Mensah. He is the assistant professor at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. The prime focus of his research is on the role of vascular endothelial glycocalysis in the pathogenesis of cardiopulmonary related diseases. So he developed in vitro and in vivo techniques to introduce various mechanical forces to vascular endothelial cells to mimic the vascular microenvironment during disease. This study really aims to develop novel therapeutic strategies to regenerate the pulmonary vasculature during various stages of disease. On the other hand, Professor Mensah also works in the global health space, leading the efforts at therapeutic innovations to develop life-saving medical devices for low to middle income countries. And thank you, Dr. Mensah, for all the great work that you contribute in the STEM field. And we would like to know, how did the College of Science really influence your career, and how did you carve your own space?
Thank you so much for the invitation. I realize a common theme in all the other speakers, and that is the ability to carve a niche in the space that you're in to be successful. And I did exactly the same thing. So my education started at Takoradi Technical University in Ghana. And from there, I got my undergrad at City College of New York in Harlem. And then I came to Northeastern University to pursue my PhD in bioengineering. During that time, I think it was the most fantastic time of my educational career, because I got the opportunity not only to pursue a PhD, but then also to get into the entrepreneurial ecosystem that existed at Northeastern University. And this is because of the fact that my PI understood the fact that everybody is interested in research, but the point is, how do you create that space that you can be successful and get a very good competitive advantage over the rest of everybody else who's pursuing a PhD. And so my love and passion for medical devices actually led me to start a startup company whilst I was at Northeastern University. First year of my PhD, I started Therapeutic Innovations, and the purpose of that was to redesign medical devices for developing countries. At Northeastern, I was also lucky to I got awarded the Graduate Research Fellowship Program from the NSF that actually funded my PhD and also gave me the leverage to test some ideas that were not traditionally what my PI was also interested in. I started Therapeutic Innovations, and then through that process, so essentially I was pursuing my PhD and also pursuing my entrepreneurship idea. My company was finalist for Mass Challenge, which is one of the biggest entrepreneurial competitions in the globe, where so many startups apply to that. You get office space, you get funding to test out your idea to move it to the next step. During that process, we also got awarded the NSF ICOL program that allowed us to travel extensively across the globe in an evidence-based customer discovery approach to really understand what the issues are that we are trying to solve, and also to make the customers co-designers in the space that we're in. In my research interest, I usually it's actually mechanobiology, and that is trying to understand how mechanical forces change cells within the body. And we worked in understanding how cancer cells interact with human cells, as well as developing some in vitro and in vivo models to understand the disease. In general, I think Northeastern really shaped my entire life, in a sense that not only did it give me the opportunity to explore so many different ideas, but it actually laid the platform for me to be a professor now at WPI. And to just share that quick story with you. So as part of my global efforts, the Department of Biomedical Engineering wanted to explore that possibility and introduce some global health entities in their course curriculum. And so a few of us were asked to go to the BPI because they are very successful, in that area. And there was a professor who was sitting in the conversation with us. And after the meeting, he asked a question, and that is, what do you want to do after school? And I said, I want to pursue my startup as well as also get into academia, because I thought I had gained so much experiential learning, tools that could be useful to educate the next generation, not only in academia, but also in entrepreneurship. And that led me to my first job as an assistant professor without even having to go through the normal route of being a postdoc. And so Northeastern has given me a company has given me my next job and is still supporting me in so many other areas that is unimaginable. So thank you for being here today.
That is absolutely wonderful to hear and really inspirational to really learn about how you really carved your space into this field and how sort of the role of this university helped you to get to that. So thank you so much for sharing. And I will pass it back to Jeriyla to introduce our next speaker.
Yes, and last but certainly not least, we have Tayler Fernandes Nunez, who is a Boston native and first-generation college student. She obtained a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics at Northeastern, while at Northeastern, she also participated in 3 co-ops, 2 study abroad programs, and conducted research on group theory and algebraic geometry at Pomona College. She also spearheaded the development of Northeastern's Association for Women in Mathematics student chapter, where she aimed to emphasize the importance of collaboration and peer support in undergraduate education. Upon graduating from Northeastern, Tayler received a certificate in mathematics from Smith College's post-baccalaureate program, where she also conducted research in an algebraic combinatorial generalization of splines, a tool commonly used in fields ranging from computer graphics to data interpolation. Currently, Tayler is a PhD student in applied mathematics at Cornell University, interested in combinatorial optimization and its applications in sustainability research. Thank you so much for being here, Tayler, and it's amazing to hear how much research you've been involved in. If you can please tell us how the College of Science has influenced your career and how you carved your own space in your field, that would be great.
Thank you, Jeriyla. Thank you for the introduction. I am with Mark. Having other people introduce you is like an outer body experience. I'm like, I did what now? But yeah, thank you for all of you to being here. I'm really honored to be a panelist. So I entered Northeastern in the fall of 2015 after doing a 6 weeks intensive summer program for my scholarship. I was a Torch Scholar. That's basically a scholarship for first generation college students that's offered by Northeastern, which allotted the financial means that I needed to be able to have my undergraduate career. So even that, just giving me an undergrad degree, Northeastern was able to help me finance that. But during that summer, the Torch program directors and faculty were tasked with kind of helping us with the transition to undergrad by laying out all the resources that Northeastern had to offer, resources including the peer tutoring program, where one would go to get started on their writing projects, where the financial aid office was, and of course, the many other resources that our respective colleges had to offer, including the College of Science. But even after completing this 6 week summer school, I entered Northeastern with a complete lack of confidence that I needed, or the lack of confidence in my ability to study the things that I actually did want to study. So for example, I started off as a math major, and then once I got my first course schedule, I saw like 3 slots for physics, like a physics lab, a seminar, and like a discussion section. And I was like, I am not cut out for this. So I switched gears to something else I was interested in, psychology. And I was thinking about like a linguistics focus, but I decided to stay on one math class, just like a recreational math class. And I'm glad I did. I obviously kept the math degree. That class changed my perspective on what math was or is and what it can be. And so I decided I'm going to face my fears. I'm going to go through physics and do what I had to do. But the mountain in front of me, like the completion of a math degree, turned out to be even more strenuous than I ever anticipated. I think some of the best qualities Northeastern has to offer was sometimes also a hindrance to my ability to find the community I needed in the beginning to feel supported academically. So for example, the co-op program is a unique and it's a fulfilling experience. It really is a chance for you to explore your professional and personal identities, find out what your interests are, make mistakes. And it's an opportunity that not everybody gets to make. And I think it's one of the best things that Northeastern has to offer. But with that being said, it also means that the people that were sitting in your class last year were not the same people that you saw after co-op when you're back on that academic cycle. And so completing a math degree and a lot of other STEM degrees, it's a communal effort. It's studying with other people. And so although the Northeastern experience is amazing because it's unique and it's tailored to you, the whiplash of finding folks every semester to study with while feeling imposter syndrome, being first gen, and being one of the few people of color in your classes, it was really intense. And so I think I carved out my own path by developing solid relationships with the people that were on campus more consistently. And I think one of the strengths of the College of Science is the faculty that are there. So I reached out to my professors and faculty in the Torch office and staff in the co-op office. And in fact, I built a really strong relationship with the current Associate Director of Undergraduate Co-op Education, Lisa Campagnoni, and the co-op coordinator, Steve Savinsky. Those two people really, really helped me think through what my career aspirations were and what I wanted for myself and what I wanted my professional identity to look like. I also received a lot of mentorship towards my senior year, my 5th year, from faculty in the math department. So that's Dr. Rubino and Dr. Donald King. They helped me navigate the application process for graduate school, told me about research experience, and they were like, you want to go to grad school and you haven't done X, Y, Z? This is what you need to do. So yeah, they introduced me to the people that I needed to set me on the right path that I am in right now. And of course, as you heard in my intro, my senior year, I developed the Association for Women in Mathematics Student Chapter, which in that process, I was able to find the community that I craved the first 4 years really of my undergraduate career. So yeah, the best thing that I did for myself was finding stability through the faculty of the College of Science. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Tayler, for telling us about your story. I can definitely relate to a lot of the elements that you told us about. So now we're going to start to transition into the panel discussion, and I will be asking the first question. So right now we're starting to see some fields in science becoming more diversified. However, there is still a ways to go in terms of increasing representation. So our first question to our panelists is, can you tell us of some of the challenges you faced as a Black person in your field, and also tell us about some strategies you have for overcoming these challenges?
Well, I'll take a shot first. My undergrad, again, was at City College of New York. And if you know where City College is between Harlem and Manhattan, so the diversity was huge. We have so many kind of people, from Black, people of color, you have the Hispanic community there, you have people from Africa there. And so moving from such an environment and then coming to Northeastern in my first day of class, I was shocked. I'm like, I was technically one of the few people of color in the class. So then I asked a quick question, and I was like, how am I going to overcome, this imposter syndrome, right? But the point is I got to a point where I realized that the only way that I would overcome that imposter syndrome is to be so good at everything that I do that I cannot be ignored. And so I decided to essentially, when it came to research, I had to be the best. And when it came to extracurricular activities like, the entrepreneurship effort, I also had to be the best. There were so many, because of the idea environment. I don't know if you guys are aware of the idea center, where you're allowed to explore so many ideas and move them sometimes into startup companies. So I got involved in that because I needed to make sure that in addition to, getting good grades, I had to be visible in all the things that I needed to do so that I cannot be ignored. And that's how, the sense of not belonging vanished, because I was there when it came to research. Getting the NSF award also increased that visibility for me, And it got me to a place that I felt so comfortable in my own skin, and color disappeared, for lack of a better word. Thank you.
And so I'll chime in. Much like what Solomon shared, my undergraduate degree was at an HBCU. So I was coming from an environment where I was surrounded by persons who looked like me, and they were successful on various levels, from the president down to students who were doing amazing things. And so I was also an older student because I already had one master's degree when I came to Northeastern, but it was still a culture shock. And it took me really about a year to find my place. When I started in my program, I was the only Black female or Black person in the program for a full year. And so trying to find my identity in that space while also acclimating to living in the Northeast for the first time and being on a large college campus was at some points very daunting. Trying to identify that space. But again, persons who were in the psychology department, from the faculty to the staff, they went out of their way to make sure that all of the graduate students were really well taken care of and felt like they were supported. And so that was just a tremendous support system immediately. And then I started to branch out not only on the Northeastern campus, but also in the Boston community, looking for persons who were like-minded and had similar interests. And so those things really helped me to become more comfortable as a Northeasterner for the time that I was going to be living in Boston. And so that confidence and assurance slowly started to transition itself into my engagements in my research and also in the classroom. When I started Northeastern, I was a class of 4. And one of the things that was really interesting, so as a part of the program, you earn your master's degree after your second year and you complete comps. And so we jokingly started to refer to it as the booby prize, because of course you were there to get your PhD degree. But ultimately, if you were not able to be successful, that was the point at which the program would invite you to find your place someplace else. And we actually did end up losing one of our colleagues who started with us as a part of the program. So the work was very serious. I don't know that I would say that I suffered from impostor syndrome at any point while I was a part of the program, but certainly there were moments of anxiety. There were moments of feeling unsure. And so the ways that I attempted to overcome those things was drawing on the rich history that I gained and experience I'd gained being a part of an HBCU, where every place you look, you see persons who look like you who are being successful. So I knew it was possible. And I just needed to make sure that I found that mental space for myself at Northeastern. And fortunately, again, the persons in the psychology program were just really awesome. And they took the time to help you navigate during that first year. And then you just have to take that next step to find those things that really resonate with you. And eventually they all come together so that you have this opportunity to truly be successful.
I can chime in. I think the hardest part thus far for me has been piecing together the mentorship that I need. So I say that because in the spaces that I'm in, a lot of the mentors that I will have don't know my experiences. And so that means that sometimes I have to seek out things from people outside of my department or colleagues that I've met doing research in other institutions, because they can give me that perspective. And so I'll give you a specific example. So I'm from a low income background. And so sometimes advice would be like, oh yeah, just attend that conference, but wouldn't tell you that there's funding available or that you could get it as an undergraduate or a graduate student, how to get it. Or they might not know themselves because they can afford to just go to those conferences. And so sometimes I would get advice from someone and I'd be like, okay, that's great. That sounds like a great opportunity. Look it up, try to apply. And I'm like, I can't afford, a hotel flight to this place, and how am I going to eat, and so just talking to a lot of people has helped me figure out that not one person can give you the mentorship you need. So you really do need to piece it from multiple spaces, because your identity is intersectional, right? And sometimes people give you advice out of ignorance, because they just don't know, and they don't have your experience. So, that's been the hardest part. I'm just in my first year of my PhD, and I'm currently the only Black person in my department. The person that I talked to before accepting the offer was a Black person, and he made me feel really welcomed in the program. And a lot of the students here are really great. But I was really disappointed when I was like, oh wait, you're graduating. And so another hurdle that I've been trying to go over this semester is finding my people, in a sense, just people that get it, that people that don't question my language or the way I speak, or I think that's been hard.
Cool. So I'll just move on to the next question. So, so you kind of already kind of touched upon like mental health, like experiencing anxiety, for example. So I kind of wanted to go back to that. So like the question I have for you all is, how has mental health impacted you and your career?
I can start us off with this one, because I wanted to kind of touch with this in the first question, because they are kind of really blended. But for me, and this is different for everyone, I want to just make it clear that I'm not trying to speak for any large group of people, because I know some of us have definitely felt an imposter syndrome and others don't. And it's different from person to person. But I definitely will confirm that I have pretty much always felt a certain kind of imposter syndrome. And that might even just be a product of the career field that I'm in. But there's also sort of this kind of added pressure that Dr. Mensah kind of touched upon, where when you find yourself to be like the only Black person in the room, in the program, in the like entire campus, you kind of have this pressure to really like be the best. Like you have to do much better than maybe an expectation placed on someone else, because you kind of forced to represent a whole group of people. And that kind of pressure, frankly, is not healthy for anyone to undergo. And so one of the things that I kind of appreciate about Northeastern is that I never really kind of felt that sort of pressure, especially because there's no way I'm going to be the best at everything, especially when it comes to things like physics or something that I'm just not good at. I'm not going to be the best, and I'm okay with that. I can be the best at the things that I am the best at. And so that was one of the things I really appreciated about my time up in Nahant with the Marine Science Center, is that I was able to kind of take the things that I'm best at, and I kind of already said this, but like highlight them and really bring them out and make something meaningful out of it. And not just like kind of put me on a meaningless pedestal, but take what I have and not necessarily force through what I don't have. That made any sense.
Yeah, to follow up, so I was a little bit, I was fortunate in the sense that my PI, I could relate with her because she, not only did she look like me because she's also Black, but we came from the same university, that the City College of New York. And she was my academic postdoctoral advisor then. And so she had a historical background or historical context regarding where I was coming from, my background, and what my strengths and weaknesses were. And so she became that, not only a PI, but also became the go-to person for me when I was struggling through some of the issues that I had. And I can agree with Marc that Northeastern tried so much, not, they tried so much so that you would not feel that you're different, which I think was amazing in a sense that, I spent a lot of my time in the Idea Center. And just by virtue of the fact that, my startup company was becoming a little successful, people would walk up to you and they would ask that you nurture them through a specific problem that they had, and that was the first time actually having somebody of a different skin color, rely on me to provide support, which I thought that was fantastic. So I think that I was fortunate. My PI was extremely supportive. And, I did not have any issues, regarding mental health when I was pursuing my PhD at Northeastern because of that environment, as well as the people that I interacted with, did not look down upon you or treated you equally, like the way you would expect people to treat you.
And so my experience was somewhat similar. I didn't have any issues or challenges around mental health, but I was very much aware of the fact that I was the only Black female in my program. I had some experience dealing with this because prior to entering graduate school, I worked for an environmental company right out of undergrad, had quickly risen within 6 months to being a department manager. And I was again thrust into a space where I was the only Black female, and sometimes the only Black person, sometimes the only female in a meeting or the room or in the lab. And so I quickly had to understand what it meant to establish my space, those things that I was comfortable with. I tried very early on, and I still try to this point, much like Marc indicated, to make it known that while I am certainly representative of women and Black people, I am not the voice for women or Black people. And so I do try to shed that weight because it can become overwhelming to feel like you have to perform in such a way that you are representing everyone. And if you don't do well, then someone else who looks like you won't get that opportunity. Again, I was fortunate to be in a department that welcomed me exactly who I was. I do recall walking into our department office one day, and I just jokingly asked some of the ladies in the office, and so exactly where are the Black people in Boston? Because I needed to find my environment, a place much like Tayler said, where you get to be yourself and you don't necessarily have to explain why you said something the way you said it, or why you appreciate this kind of food or like this music or what have you. And so all of those things are important. You absolutely have to find ways to nurture your entire being when you are in graduate school. And so again, I'm very appreciative of the experience I have had. And I do think that the experience that I had working for that environmental firm helped to prepare me for some of the things that I would encounter while living in Boston. I love the city, but I know there was a point in time when I felt like it was the most segregated, desegregated city that I'd ever been a part of. There are communities that are certainly very sectioned off, and you have to be welcomed into those environments. And so those were things that were a challenge. But by the time I was in my 4th to 5th year, I had found my community both on the campus, outside of the campus, and that really helped to move me forward in terms of what I was able to accomplish as a graduate student, but also as an individual who needed to be able to connect with other like-minded people outside of research and academia. And so it can be a challenge, and it really is important to have a community around you that even if they don't understand what you're doing, they support what you are doing and what you're attempting to do. And it's really important that you have the opportunity to establish yourself as an individual so that you are not carrying a weight that is not yours to carry throughout this life.
Well, thank you all for really sharing sort of some of the challenges that you guys have really faced in your career and how you really dealt with it. And this kind of goes into sort of our next question, where we sort of discuss about sort of the importance of mentorship. So I know, Tayler, you mentioned sort of how mentorship really has helped you, how it's really guided you throughout sort of your career. So I would love to sort of hear a little bit more about sort of your experience with mentorship as you advance in the different stages you're currently at, and how significant was this mentorship to your development?
Yeah, so this actually kind of plays in with the mental health. I was debating on saying anything because I was like, these are really great points. Everybody has like really good things to say. But the spring of 2019, it was my junior year at Northeastern. I've had, for reasons related to things that were going on at my home, I was having a lot of panic attacks right before classes. It was really hard to like chug through courses, and this is your junior year, so you're taking like more advanced level courses, and this was I was taking a rigorous proofwriting class called group theory, which later I ended up doing research in. But I failed that course. I did so bad, and I went to office hours every single day. I would have panic. It was like a ritual. Panic attacks in the morning. Go to class, try to understand anything, then go to office hours. And then my professor, the gracious Anthony Arabino, Dr. Arabino, he would stay more than the time he had to. He didn't have to do that, but he would stay after office hours and we would talk about life and math and things like that. And he knew that I was invested, and he knew that I was trying, you know, and I think he saw that in me. And so any opportunity he saw, he would send my way. He'd be like, you should talk to this mathematician. Oh, this is an RE, you should apply to it. This is actually a great story. There was Donald King, Dr. Donald King. He was a professor at the math department. He sent me like a research program to apply to on a Saturday. The deadline was that Thursday. I come to class on Monday. Arabino, I guess, was talking to Donald King, and he was like, so are you gonna apply? And I was like, no, I am not gonna ask for rec letters 3 days before the deadline. Like, that's ridiculous. And so Arabino looked at me like I was crazy. He grabbed out his laptop and started emailing professors for me to ask if they could write my rec letters. This is the first time I was doing anything like that. And so, yeah, I submitted it. 2 said yes, I needed 3. I only submitted 2. So it was not even a complete application. And I got into the program within the month. So, and the research was on the topic in a class that I was failing. So all that to say, don't say no to yourself, you know, try and let other people say no to you. And take advice from your mentors when you think it's going to benefit you. And so, yeah, I think I was able to prove myself because I was able to do research on the subject that I failed. And I think that's how graduate schools kind of was like, that's fine. You can, we believe in you. So yeah, that mentorship really like paved the way for me. And I still email him every day.
Yeah, just to add to that. So I made sure I surrounded myself with a lot of people that were experts in areas that was my weakness. And so, I mean, we all know, what our strengths and our weaknesses are. And so I made sure that I had mentors that, were at a place that I wanted to get to. And they guided me and drove me, sometimes out of my comfort zone to be able to push me to where I wanted to be. I took a class, which is a materials class, and Dr. Arthur Curry, I think he's a distinguished professor now at Northeastern, and he spoke a little bit about his hybrid career, which is academia and industry, and how he was able to, marry those two passions together to get the career that he had. I was extremely intrigued, by that. And so after class, I approached him and I said, Dr. Curry, would you mind, telling me more about how you were able to manage the two? So one conversation led to the other, and many months later or many years later, after my PhD program, he was still a mentor, to me, became an advisory board for my startup, and actually recommended the VPI to hire me because he was part of the industry advisory board for the VPI. So just that little conversation and realizing what my passion was and understanding what my weaknesses were and compensating my weaknesses with a mentor that had the strength in that area actually pushed me and propelled me to where I am today. So I think mentorship is one of the most important things you can think about having, in addition to, of course, getting a good GPA.
And I would just encourage that you think of mentorship and having a mentor as action items. It is something that you have to do as students and even as a professional. One of the things that I have found is that if you see someone who is doing things that you're interested in or behaving in ways that you hope to evolve over time, I have not run into one person that has declined when asked, I appreciate this about what you do. Would you please mentor me, or can I contact you sometimes if I have questions? I have mentors who have been with me since I was an undergraduate student, graduate student, and as a professional. And you absolutely need people who are going to be a part of your cheering section. You need persons who will be able to offer you constructive criticism, and you need people who are available to open doors for you that you don't think you have the right to step through for whatever reasons, to help push you along. And so I don't think anyone can truly be successful without having someone who is encouraging them, supporting them, and giving them advice about things that they should try to avoid and things they should try to engage in.
And we have 5 more minutes left. And I guess one question that we can ask, maybe just as like a final question, is what is some advice that you have for Black students, both in the undergrad or at any point in their career?
So I would say for students, Black students in particular, be yourself. Know who you are as an individual so that others aren't trying to define you based on what they think you should be. Based on our previous conversation, absolutely find you a mentor, but also find you a group that allows you to be your authentic self when you are not having to study or do your research and all those types of things. Your entire person is extremely important. And I think sometimes as students, we forget that because we are trying to study, we're trying to work hard, we're trying to make our families proud, our communities proud, and all those kinds of things. That's a lot of weight to have to carry on one individual. And you don't have to do those things alone. Also, I would encourage that you be the example that you want to be, but recognize that you don't represent everyone who is a part of a group that looks like you. So just because you're female doesn't mean that you represent all women. Just because you're Black or what have you doesn't mean that you represent all Black people. But what you should try to do is be your best every single day, be your authentic self every single day, because the world will absolutely send you curveballs and you'll deal with microaggressions that you never imagined as you are trying to get to where you want to be in terms of your career. And so make sure you have a good support system and make sure at the end of the day, you always appreciate the person who's looking back at you in the mirror.
Yeah, I really wanted to echo that you don't have to be the best, just be your best. Like, no one can be the best at anything unless you're like Michael Phelps, I guess. But like, as long as you be your best, you'll do fine. And I just want to, I've always kind of wanted to say this once I've made it with a job, but I too have failed a class in my undergrad. And I thought it was the end of the world. I failed a Gen Chem class and I was like, this is it. Like, I'm done. Like, there's no, you don't fail a class and go on to work for NOAA. You don't. But I did, and you can. It's not the end of the world. It's okay to just be okay at things. Be okay with it.
I guess since we are talking about classes that we failed, I also failed physics too at City College of New York, but I'm now an assistant professor of biomedical engineering. So failing a class is not the end of the world. I think Dr. McFall actually has said everything that I wanted to say in a more fantastic way. What I'll just add to that is, pursue things that will give you a competitive advantage. I have learned over the years that, being a regular student will just not cut it. Pursue some things that you're very passionate about and believe that those things will give you a competitive advantage over the next student. Because even now, as I'm recruiting PhD students for my lab, I don't only look at the GPA, but I look at the totality of the applicant in front of me, how human you are, right? In a sense that what else have you pursued in addition to your academia or your academic excellence that makes you a human being. So I like to see that, you like to hang out with people. I like to see that you engage in community service. I like to see that you like entrepreneurship, innovation, like things that has nothing to do with your area of expertise or areas of study, but you're passionate about. So please pursue things that will give you competitive advantage over the next person, and I'm sure you'll be fine. And don't worry if you fail a class, you'll still be successful.
I think my advice, I'll be consistent. It's pretty much the same. It's to seek mentorship from multiple avenues and to build your tribe, your community, one way or another. I want to address the question in the chat by Carl. What message would you give to white allies, faculty, staff, and students who want to create a more welcoming environment for Black students, but may not know how? And I think I would say that for white colleagues to fight the anti-racist battles for us, like check your colleagues when they say something, because a lot of the onus lies on us a lot of the times, and it's tiring work. And for creating a welcoming environment and gaining trust with your Black students, send them opportunities them way, even like when you're just thinking about them, not only for Black things, but for research, for STEM things, for conferences. Here, this is something you can do, because it goes a long way in building trust.
Well, I unfortunately think I need to wrap up the conversation. This was so wonderful, and I want to thank everyone for your time. I'm Randall Hughes. I'm Associate Dean for Equity in the college. And I really appreciate our panelists and our student moderators so much for the conversation today. As Dean Siv mentioned in the beginning, today's event is part of a series of events honoring Black History Month and Black History in STEM. And so I just want to put the link in the chat for an upcoming event hosted by the College of Engineering called A Black Her Story panel discussion, which is on Thursday, February 24th from 7 to 8. And I'll just wrap up with a big thank you again to Nathalie, Jeriyla, and Laetitia for leading a wonderful discussion. And of course to Diana Bronchuk from the Office of Alumni Relations and Associate Dean Kevin Thompson for their help planning and organizing this event. And a really tremendous thank you to our panelists, Mr. Marc Lausavio, Dr. Sametria McFall, Dr. Solomon Mensah, and Ms. Tayler Fernandez Nunez. It was really inspiring to hear from you all today, and I appreciate your insights. Thanks everyone for coming.